Good afternoon. It's Patrick Dwyer and Greg Poole, and we are here today at Aligned Wealth in Miami to talk about why are people moving to Florida? What are the facts? And this video is as much about saving us time and having this conversation
Yeah,
because we have a lot of
a
these
lot.
conversations and to really go through the facts so people can really look at it and think about it the right way. Well, since 2020, Florida has gained almost 900,000 residents through domestic migration alone. In that same window, New York, where I'm from, lost over a million. California lost 1.3 million people, and the gap keeps getting wider.
Yeah. I mean, everybody has a theory why we hear what weather, politics, COVID, but today we're going to show you the actual data behind this. And, it's really not one thing. It's a flywheel and each piece feeds the next.
Yeah. And well, we're going to walk through 5 chapters: tax policy, the financial firms that kind of followed, the building boom, what daily life actually looks like in Florida, and then the raw population numbers. And at the end, we're going to show you the single most expensive mistake people make when they move. And it can cost you more than the taxes you were trying to save in the first place is if you make this mistake.
So let's start on the tax side. This is a map here of state income taxes across the country. And you can see California, the highest, is 13.3%. New York charges 10.9, and if you're in the city, you get another 3.9 on top of that. So the combined rate for New York City residents is almost 15%, 14.8, and that's the highest combined rate in America.
That's a lot of taxes. Florida charges zero. Let me say that again: zero. No state income tax, no city income tax, no estate tax, no inheritance tax. And that's been true for decades. It's not a loophole, it's by design. The Florida Constitution says that, we don't have a state income tax, and you'd have to change the state constitution, which is really unlikely and hard to do to change that. So that's why people feel that Florida has the most solid laws that are going to stay in place longer term.
Yeah, no, that's a structural advantage. And look, I think for someone making $250,000 a year, that gap's real, but it's manageable. When you start looking at incomes that are north of $1 million, the numbers get much harder to justify. And especially, with the increase of remote work or work from home, to be people are doing the same job, they're doing it from Miami or Florida, and they're paying a lot less taxes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so we're going to look at this chart of the annual savings table, which I think everybody who's good at math should look at. So here's what it actually looks like. At $1 million of income, you're saving $139,000 a year by leaving New York. At 3 million, it's 425,000. At 5 million, if you're keeping 715,000 a year that you were handing to the state. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah. No, I mean, do that math over a decade and assuming flat income, no compounding, a $5 million earner keeps over $7 million just from the state savings tax alone. And if you reinvest those savings at any reasonable rate of return, the real number is dramatically higher.
Yeah, and I think that's the trigger, and that's really what turned Florida from a vacation destination into a financial decision. But this is where it gets interesting. Tax policy didn't just bring individuals, it brought institutions with them. And really, like, why this happened, like, very simply, is because there's this structural change in communication. You can work from a lot of different places. Communication's only getting better. So working from different places is going to get easier and easier and easier as time goes on, as we saw post COVID. And so let's talk about Wall Street South.
Yeah. And if you look, some of the biggest names in finance picked up and relocated. So since 2020, you have Citadel moved from Chicago to Brickell, right next door, 650 billion of assets. Thoma Bravo, over $1 trillion in AUM, moved from San Francisco to Wynwood. Goldman Sachs moved to West Palm. You have Blackstone, Elliott, Icon, Founders Fund. Millennium is upstairs. You have over 370 investment firms have relocated, and collectively, that's trillions of institutional dollars.
Yeah, and this isn't just hedge funds setting up like a satellite office to give a founder a nice place to work in January. I mean, Palantir just agreed to move their headquarters from Denver to Miami. I mean, ServiceNow is a big company, moved from Silicon Valley to West Palm. I mean, like, these are operating businesses with thousands of employees choosing Florida as a permanent home base. I mean, you don't move from San Francisco to Florida. That's a big friggin' location
Yeah.
decision. And as firms go, so do founders, right? So I always think about it as like you have a friends network, right? And when a bunch of your friends move, you get curious, you go visit them. And so this is a list of billionaires who've relocated to South Florida recently. It's a long list. Zuckerberg went to Indian Creek. Bezos is in Indian Creek. Larry Page and Sergey Brin just both moved to South Florida in the last couple of weeks. Ken Griffin moved himself here in 2020. Florida now has 55 billionaires, up 1,900% since 2001. So that's what we call a secular trend.
Yeah, that's 14 of the 15 billionaire relocations of the top 15 billionaire relocations in the country landed in Florida. And that's, not consensus. Obviously, there's something that's driving that. And the data is catching up. The recognition, the Global Financial Centers Index ranks the world's top financial hubs twice a year for almost 20 years. Over 100 cities evaluated on business environment, infrastructure, human capital, reputation.
And we just zoom into just North American cities in the latest report. Miami had the biggest increase of any United States city on the list, up 10 spots. New York, San Francisco, Chicago, they're stable, but Miami's like accelerating, right? And the gap is closing fast, which brings us to all of what's happening with the capital is actually building up.
Yeah. So once you get that capital here, it starts to build. And this chart shows every new business entity filed in Florida going back to 2014. So before 2020, the state was averaging about 400,000 new filings a year. Then COVID hit. Instead of slowing down, it accelerated. Florida cost 500,000 in 2020, and it jumped to nearly 700,000 a year and stayed there. So there's 3.8 million new businesses formed since 2019.
That's just mind blowing because it goes against all these other narratives about they're like, oh, Florida's this, Florida's that, and it isn't people filing an LLC to flip a house, right? I mean, Wallet Hub ranked Florida the number one state to start a business in 2025, and 2026. CNBC ranked Florida's economy number one in the nation 3 years running. The regulatory environment, the permitting speed, the core cost structure, it's built to operate a business in. This is a really business-friendly environment that removes obstacles to you as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And look, if you look out the windows, you can see businesses get that and they're building. This is Brickell, where we are, Miami's financial district. And in 2024, what it's supposed to look like by 2030. Miami now is the third largest skyline in the U.S. after New York and Chicago, 400 high rises. And now Florida's first super tall is going up the Waldorf around the corner. That'll be the tallest residential building south of New York City.
Yeah, and it's really like it's just buildings doesn't really tell the whole story. Like it's not just about towers and condos. I mean, you've got Dolce and Gabbana building a tower, Bentley, Mercedes-Benz, Aman. Like these are global luxury brands, and they're betting their name on the skyline of Miami, which is like, again, if you'd asked me this stuff 10 years ago, I would have laughed and said, no, that's never going to happen. When a brand sells a $300,000 car and then they put their name on a condo building, they're telling you what the next decade is going to look like. The next decade is going to be about Miami.
Yeah, it's a long-term commitment. They're not doing this for next week. And
Yeah.
I think the most interesting part, maybe the part that surprised people most, is what all of this has done to everyday life here.
Yeah.
And looking at standard of living. So we have a slide showing quality of life scorecard. So, the buildings and the business and the investment, it changes what it's actually like to live here. And this is a side-by-side scorecard across metrics that matter to someone deciding where to put down the roots. So the cost of living, Florida is essentially at the national average. New York is 40% above it. So that matters enormously to people that are moving here with their families, not just their portfolios.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. I mean, violent crime, and this one surprises people. I don't know why, but Florida's violent crime rate is 267 per 100,000 residents. So that's about 26% below the national average, and it's dropped 45% since 2004. So it's going, you want crime to go down, not up. New York is 363, right at the national average. So Florida's like significantly safer as well. And the trend line is positive, right? It's I mean, it's going negative. It's actually going down. So kind of a good fact.
Yeah, that is a good fact. Income tax, we've always covered this, but you have 0 here versus 10.9 plus the New York City surcharge. And so the total population growth, shows you, Florida gained 1.9 million people since 2020 and New York lost 630,000.
Yeah. I mean, look, Florida's not perfect. I'm not trying to say that. I mean, we live here, so clearly it's not perfect. They let us in. So, But insurance costs are a big issue here, which is hurricane insurance, and they're going up. By the way, there's a state plan to deal with it. I listened to the guy who's running for governor, gave it a really detailed plan about how they're going to deal with this. So Florida deals with problems. Summers are really hot. They're brutal if you're not used to them, but everything's air conditioned. But when you put the actual numbers side by side, cost of living, safety taxes, and where people are choosing to go with their feet, it's not even close. And the population data makes this very clear.
Yeah,
Florida is winning.
it is. So walk us through the numbers then. You've got the population boom.
Yeah. So everything we just showed you, the taxes, the capital, the building, the quality of life, it all shows up in the numbers. Total massive domestic migration. If you look at these charts, in 5 years, Florida gained 900,000 residents through domestic migration. And when you break it down by where they're coming from, New York sent 250,000 people. Thank you, New York. New Jersey sent 117,000. Thank you. Illinois sent 86,000. The highest tax states in the country are directly feeding Florida's growth. It's clearly not random. They could have gone to other places. It's a direct consequence of pretty much all the statistics that we just walked you through.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. I mean, I think let's say this is migration in versus migration out that we're showing. Both lines are going up. People do leave Florida, but the gap between that keeps widening. So more people are arriving every single year than are leaving, and that gap is accelerating. So basically, the flywheel of lower taxes brought more money built a financial center, that growth raised the quality of life, and more people strengthened everything that came before it. So tax policy, capital, construction, lifestyle, and in turn, population.
It's got to be a catch. So we'll talk about some of the things you got to pay attention to
Yeah.
there, right? There's something we haven't told you, and this is the part that a lot of people are surprised by, and this is the last chapter, which is domicile audits, the most expensive mistake. So we just gave you the pitch for why to come to Florida. Now we want to tell you like how we really spend a lot of time helping clients guide, working with their tax advisor in the state that they're coming from, helping them get set up here. And why don't you
Yeah,
start?
that's exactly right. So the issue isn't that you can't be a Florida resident. Florida is really happy to have you. The problem is that the other states don't just let you go. They'll audit you. And New York runs over 3,500 residency audits a year, and they audit 3 years at a time. Meaning, if they open one, they're going to look at 3 years of your life simultaneously.
Yeah, by the way, these are very unpleasant processes. It's not surprising that a lot of people are like, I don't want to do this. And if you decide that, if they decide that you truly never left, if your kids are enrolled in school there, if your primary doctor is still back in your home state, if you kept your country club membership and you didn't go to the out of town one, they come for everything. Back taxes, penalties, interest, and legal fees to fight. So they'll make it really painful and really costly. That is what a failed a domicile audit actually costs. Per year, $1 million earner who gets audited by New York owes $267. Back taxes, penalties, interest, legal fees. A $5 million income, it's $1.1 million. At $10 million, over $2 million. And remember, they will audit you 3 years all at once. So you got to multiply these numbers by 3. And so you really have to be like, you need to do a financial plan. You need to do everything to get ready for this stuff. And be very, very careful. And you got to follow the rules.
Yeah, and California is really no different. I mean, different rate, but same result. The franchise tax board is aggressive and well-resourced. And frankly, the pressure for these states to be doing this is only going up because more and more people are leaving. So, they go all out. They'll cross-reference flight data, cell phone pings, social media. They're looking for the thread to try to prove that you really are still a resident in the states.
So the move still makes all the sense in the world. Every number we showed you confirms that. That's why these people have moved. But you have to do it right. A clean break, new license, new voter, new doctor, new accountant, new estate attorney, new advisors, all in Florida. And if you leave a thread, they will pull the thread. And the cost of getting that wrong is often larger than the taxes you were trying to escape.
Yeah, but the good news is this is a part of what we do every day. We've seen it dozens and dozens of times, done right, done wrong. We know what to do. So if you're thinking about making this move, or you've already made it and you're not sure everything's fully buttoned up, this is exactly the type of conversation we'd love to have. Give us a call, send us an email. We'd love to walk you through it.
Yeah, and like and subscribe to our videos. We'd appreciate that. Send it to your friend. And yeah, please give us a call. We will show you the way. And Florida's a great place to live. We're really happy here.
Getting better all the time.
It really is. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.